welcome to News Kids Can Use. I'm Emin Rogers.
And I'm Tori Ogawa, and this is a show about all the weird, wacky, and straight up strange things that explain what your grown-ups have been freaking out about lately. Today we are skipping some regular segments because we've got a special guest from the Department of Health to talk to us today about vaccines and the COVID-19 vaccine.
In ancient snacking news, archaeologists have discovered a fast food restaurant in the remains of the city of Pompeii, which was buried thousands of years ago when the volcano nearby blew up and buried the whole thing in ash.
And in science news, scientists have started creating this farting animals database. So if you've ever been curious if birds or snakes fart, you can find out all that information now on this farting animal database. It's great.
Finally, it is Inauguration Day today, which is the day that an old president goes out and a new one comes in. This year is one for the history books because 2 weeks ago today, an angry mob stormed the Capitol while Congress was trying to certify the results of the election.
Right. So these people who were angry about the election results, and they staged a protest, but the protest turned into this angry mob which stormed the Capitol, and they caused damage and hurt other people. It is okay to be angry about things, but acting on your anger in violent ways can cause damage to things, and it can be dangerous to you and other people. So we don't want you to act upon those angry feelings.
Exactly. And people, when they are angry or scared or stressed, make terrible decisions, just like it says in the movie Frozen. So it's important, if you notice there's a lot of fear around or a lot of anger around, to take an extra second to make sure that you are acting in a kind and respectful way. Oh, hey, sorry. I was just listening to a podcast called The Past and the Curious, which is a history podcast for kids that talks about all the crazy stuff that happened in history. It's a hilarious podcast with quizzes and songs and stuff like that, and I highly recommend it. You can find it for free anywhere that you can find podcasts. So we are really lucky today to be joined by Immunization Health Educator Vadim Kogan from the State Department of Health, and we're going to ask him a few questions about vaccines and especially the COVID vaccine. Thank you so much for being with us, Vadim.
Thank you, Emin and Tori, for having me here. I'm excited to answer any questions you may have about vaccines.
So our first question, what's the basic idea behind how vaccines work?
So vaccines are kind of like a cheat sheet for a disease for your body. When you get a vaccine, it shows your body's immune system what the disease that you're getting vaccinated against will look like and what it'll be like to fight against it without having to be sick with the disease in the first place. For COVID-19 vaccine, the vaccine doesn't contain any part of the virus, and the vaccine itself cannot get you sick. So what will happen is when you do get vaccinated, your body can react to the vaccine, know how to beat the virus that the vaccine will teach it how to beat. And then later, if you do ever get exposed to that virus, you'll be able to beat it without having to get sick or having serious symptoms. For both vaccines that are currently available, you're supposed to get 2 doses. One dose to first prime your immune system to what fighting COVID will be like, and then the second dose to hopefully give you more long-lasting immunity. So just because you got vaccinated the first time doesn't mean you're going to be, immune to COVID. It'll take a little bit of time.
You make vaccines sound like a great idea for a cheat sheet for my body on how to fight COVID. So how quickly am I going to be able to get a vaccine?
Well, right now we don't have enough vaccines to vaccinate everyone at the same time, which means we need to take turns. And right now the Department of Health has to figure out, along with other people helping us, who has to get the vaccine first. And usually the way that we've been figuring this out is people that are at high risk of having the disease and having serious complications from the disease, as well as people that are high risk areas like doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers treating people with COVID. And so those people are up to get the vaccine first, and later on, the vaccine will open up to other people based on other characteristics. So right now for kids though, the vaccine is not available. It was only tested in adults over the age of 16. And so the 2 different vaccines that are currently available were approved for those purposes, but they weren't tested on kids because in the beginning, we didn't know if they were going to be safe and effective. So we wanted to hold off on that testing until later. Kids are currently part of the groups that are going through testing of the vaccines right now. So we'll know those results hopefully in the future. And we'll see if those vaccines are safe and effective for kids. We'll know the correct dosages and the correct schedules as well, because they may be different for children.
Okay. But everybody will get vaccinated eventually.
Yes, we're hoping that everyone will be vaccinated eventually by the end of the year.
Oh, that's great news. Yes. Okay. So I'm so excited from when we're all vaccinated. Does it mean as soon as I get my vaccine that I can take my mask off?
It does not. I mean, as I said before, for the time being, children aren't under the age of 16 aren't eligible to be vaccinated. So if you're not vaccinated, you can still get sick and then potentially get other people sick. So you should definitely keep wearing your mask. And even after you're vaccinated, or for the adults in your life that may have been vaccinated, the vaccine isn't 100% effective. So it's there's still a chance that you're able to spread that disease or potentially not feel sick, but you can still get other people sick.
So for our last question, it's a little bit more of a difficult subject, but in the past, the healthcare system has experimented with dangerous procedures on Black, Indigenous, people of color communities, leading to a great mistrust of the healthcare system in general, as well as vaccines. So what safety measures are in place to prevent these historical wrongs from being repeated this time?
The medical community in the past has done that, especially with BIPOC communities in places like Tuskegee, the Public Health Service. Right now, we're making sure that we want to get vaccines to the people that need them the most. And part of that is making sure that those vaccines were tested equitably across all groups. So we had tried to do testing from people from all racial backgrounds and ethnicities to make sure that the vaccines that we're currently using were safe and effective, no matter what your race or ethnicity. Aside from that, we want to make sure that we get the information out around vaccination to people in a way that they can understand and access, as well as getting their input. So when we were trying to figure out how to distribute the vaccine through those different phases that I talked about earlier, we went out and talked to those communities, to BIPOC communities, to see how we could best distribute vaccine, as well as how we wanted to prioritize that, especially for communities that are at higher risk. So that aside, we translated our materials into 37 different languages. We have done our best to figure out where vaccines should be distributed, not just doctors' offices, but pharmacies, grocery stores, places where people actually go and be able to get vaccinated if they would like to. In general, we're doing our best to try and be as inclusive as possible. And hopefully over time, we'll be able to get better, be able to get everyone equitably vaccinated as soon as we can.
That's amazing that 37 languages and just the accessibility all over the place, that you'll be able to get the vaccine eventually as the phases roll out. And I think that's incredible. So thank you for telling us all that and sharing that information. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Vadim. And if people want to find more information, they can go to the Washington Department of Health website to find more about vaccines and maybe what phase you fall into to get the vaccine. And the link is below. So thanks again for being with us today, Vadim.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching News Kids Can Use, a show about all the weird, jaw-dropping, and strange things that have been making your grown-ups freak out lately. We hope that you enjoyed the show, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. I'm Tori Obala.
I'm Emin Rogers, and let us know if you try any of those ancient Pompeii snacks.